What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Culture 316. I am one of your hosts and producers, Jordan Ahisi.
Joined by your co-host Mo. What is up, people?
And thank you guys so much for tuning in for another episode. I believe this is episode 31. This is our Crown Jewel edition where we're going to be giving our predictions as well as talk about some other stuff that's been going on in the world of wrestling. We have a special announcement, and no, it has nothing to do with what Tony Khan had to say or do, and it is more important than anything he had to say or do. That is that we have a 316 space this Saturday for Crown Jewel. Starts 15 minutes before the show starts, so be sure to follow us on Twitter. And if you want to build community with us online, be sure to do that and join us on our 316 space. It's surely going to be a lot of fun. As far as regular announcements, if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts, be sure to like as well as give us a 5 stars, because this is how our show grows in popularity amongst you guys. So we're not going to waste any more time. We're going to get right into the show. This past week, Becky Lynch announced that she will be releasing a new book on March 26, 2024. The Man, Not Your Average Girl. We know that Becky Lynch just came off of a 42-day reign as the NXT Women's Championship, where she had 5 defenses before dropping the title to Lyra Valkyria. I don't even want to pronounce her name. To Lyra. And now she's releasing a book. I just kind of wanted to know what your impressions were of all of this. And to kind of talk, how do you feel about Becky Lynch releasing her own book?
I got no issue with her releasing a book. I think she's the perfect person that could write a book that I want to listen to. But the idea that this happened after she decided to, in my still opinion, selfishly go to NXT and take the title and have a title reign, I'm like, all right, did she just do all this shit to put her goddamn book over? Like, she didn't need to do that. She could have done it on the main roster. It's kind of weird timing if you ask me. Um, I still think it's gonna be a good book. Yeah, I do think it's a good book, but I'm just like, all right, like you basically did this to put yourself over. Cute, cute. Now, I think it's gonna be an interesting read in the sense that like Becky Lynch has a really odd like career come up. I think like last time I checked, they said she was like a flight attendant before this, like while she was wrestling. Like she had such a weird arc to becoming a wrestler that I am interested in reading through her stories. And I actually am interested in possibly checking out the book itself. I just still think the timing is sus, if you ask me. It feels like she did it on purpose because she saw all my tweets slandering her, and she just decided, well, you know what I'm gonna do to top it off? I'm gonna end it with a book, bitch. But what do you think about it, Jordan?
I personally think that it's great. Like you said, she had a very, very interesting arc, considering that considering everything that she went through. If you haven't done so, I would highly recommend anyone who is interested in the Becky Lynch story to watch her 24, her WWE 24. I think it's one of the best WWE 24s that was ever done during that WWE Network era. Um, as far as, do I think that she went to NXT to put the book over? Not necessarily. Because if this book is being announced now, that means that it's been done for a while, which means that 9 times out of 10, if it wasn't announced now, it's probably going to be announced sooner. I don't think that it really has much to do with anything, considering Becky wasn't even on NXT this past week. So I don't think it has anything to do with her NXT title reign. At all. I don't think it has anything to do with her defenses. I think it's just one of those, it was just like the natural next step. I feel like if you look at kind of where all the 4 horsewomen are in their careers, it's, I don't want to say coming to a close, but like there's a whole new crop of women that are coming up now. And I feel like this is kind of a different stage in all 4 horsewomen's lives, right? Like obviously Mercedes is in New Japan. Bailey is still kind of a very much a mentor role in Damage Control. Charlotte is Charlotte, and Becky is Becky. And like when you think about like everything that they've been able to do and accomplish over the past 10 years, they're kind of in a different space career wise. and I feel like they're, you know, in a space where they're kind of passing the torch to the next generation of women. And so when you're passing the torch, it's a great time to begin to tell your story. So I think that Becky's book is going to be a good read. I'll be very, very intrigued to see what the contents are. As far as like her NXT title reign, I still, in my opinion, I think that the NXT Women's Championship over the past 42 days, I mean, she said it. She said it on TV. She defended her title more than Roman did. She defended her title more than there was somebody else she name
Rhea
dropped. She
Ripley.
defended, huh?
Rhea Ripley. She called
Yeah,
out Rhea
she
Ripley.
defended her title more than Rhea. She defended her title more than Roman, which is true. And she went down to NXT, and regardless of how it could have been selfish or whatever the case may be, she gave good matches. She put people over. She was, you know what I'm saying? Like she did her deed. She did what she had to do, and she gave that belt to someone who needed the belt. So I don't think it was selfish, but I do think that the book and the title reign are separate. And, you know, that's just my opinion on that. But I want to know how you guys feel about the book. Are you going to be purchasing your copy of The Man, Not Your Average Girl? Let us know in the comments below where we're going to be moving on. So, Brian Danielson looks like he's going to be on the shelf for a bit. Reports have been words. Reports have been circulating and have stated that it seems that he has fractured his orbital bone. I believe it was SE Scoops. Don't quote me on it. I believe it was SE Scoops or Fightful that said that he had suffered the injury after a interaction with Andrade. I don't remember if it was a match or just a segment. Considering that AEW has been booking Brian Danielson as a special attraction, do you think that this injury was as a result of bad booking, or do you think it was just wrong place, wrong time on behalf of, you know, the talents involved?
I mean, it's wrestling. Shit is always gonna happen, and this man's on his way out on a wrestling tour, so he kind of consented to all these bookings and working with all these people. I really think that this is just a effective natural causes. Like shit really happens in the ring. Like you could get injured off of something as crazy as doing a 450 splash, a pile driver, or someone could just have backhand you wrong for crying out loud. And I think that when I read into his orbital bowl in bowl, I said bowl, orbital bone injury, that they said it was an elbow to the eye, you know. And again, like shit like that just happens in wrestling. I don't think anyone could have like prevented things like that happening because it just happens. It's human error. So it's unfortunate because obviously that wasn't his plans. And an orbital bowl injury is a serious case. I'm pretty sure it takes a while to heal from the injury, but knowing Daniel Bryan, he's also psychotic. The man came back from a fucking neck injury. I would not put it past him. So while healing post surgery, come out with an eye patch and still do a match.
Hmm.
So to be honest, I mean it's like a hole in the plans, but I don't think that is gonna prevent him from having an interesting finish. If anything, knowing AEW, they're probably gonna add that somewhere, some shape or form to the storyline to putting the ribbon on, his wrestling career. So I don't know. I don't really see the harm or loss in it. Just changing plans. What do you think?
I agree. I think this is part of one of the reasons I wanted to include this in the rundown is because everybody's online. Oh, Danielson should be booked as a special attraction. It's AEW's fault that he suffered this injury. But it's like, it's wrestling. Like, this could have happened in any match, in any segment. It just so happens that this is just the nature of this sport. Like, stuff like this is just going to happen. And I think that blaming it um on a specific person or the booking, I think it's just really, really immature and just lacks empathy towards everybody that could have possibly been involved in this particular scenario. Like, I think that, Brian Danielson understands the nature of the sport as someone who has been involved for, I believe, 20 plus years at this point. So I don't think that it's one of those things that he takes personal. And if he's not taking it personal, if Andrade's not taking it personal, if there's going to be a bounce back, I don't think that we need to be taking it personal either. Um, that's pretty much it. I just feel like that people just need to be a little bit more understanding that wrestling is hard. That like injuries are going to be sustained, and it's just a part of the game, and it's not personal. So But I want to know how everybody else feels. Do you believe that Brian Daniels' injury is a product of just happenstance, or is it bad booking? Let us know in the comments below. Moving on. A very, very big topic that has been going around the wrestling community over the past week, as it pertains to this specific talent, because he will be in a championship match at Crown Jewel. Um, Drew McIntyre. It says that he has not inked a new deal with WWE. If he does not sign an extension, it means that his contract will be set to expire prior to WrestleMania 40. So that leaves the question: do you think that Drew is going to resign with WWE, and do you think that he should stay or that he should go?
Um, Honestly, it's kind of interesting. Drew spent, I think it's been over a decade, in WWE. If I'm not mistaken, wasn't he around since like the Nexus was a thing?
I
Like,
don't remember if the Nexus, if he was around during the next, probably a little bit prior too. But remember, he
right.
came in late 2000s, like late 2000s, right? And then he was
Hmm.
released. He kind of
Yeah.
rebuilt himself on the indies, and then he came back. And this, I think he came
Right.
back in like 2013, 2014.
He did. All right. So, yeah, nonetheless, okay, his actual career since it truly started and he was established has been 10 years. Um, and he's found his footing. But see, in my personal opinion, I like Drew McIntyre. I enjoy him. I think that they gave him opportunities, but it always felt like the booking wasn't the way it should be, or it didn't feel like it was the right place at the right time. Um, I always harp on this, but the fact that he had to unfortunately have his WrestleMania moment at the fucking pandemic in front of
Right,
no audience, winning a belt against, I think, Brock Lesnar. No one remembers it. To beat Brock Lesnar is freaking legendary. You know what I
right,
mean? It made Steph's
absolutely,
moment being the Beast Slayer. And unfortunately, amongst all the people that beat Brock Lesnar, Drew's on that list, but no one goes back to it. He also had a feud, I think, with like what Randy Orton or somebody on the fucking Hell in a Cell match. No one remembers that either. He had a lot of bigger moments, but you just don't remember it.
right.
Um, but that's when he was white hot, and then as soon as he got his opportunity, like I said, no fans, and the fans make wrestling. It just kind of fizzled out. And then
Mhm.
afterwards, there was times where he could have been inserted to be interesting, but they just, they had other decisions, other booking with him. I feel like he's worthy of having an actual real title run in front of a live crowd. And I feel like if you give us that on his way out, that I wouldn't mind if he wanted to go elsewhere, this experiment. 'Cause, I mean, he's been dealing with WWE for how long?
Yeah,
But I'm not opposed to him staying in the E. He has like a personality and a look to me that could fit well in either AEW or WWE.
agreed.
Like, yes, he was basically made in WWE per se, even though he won the Indies, but
Yeah,
he doesn't feel like extremely WWE polished.
yeah, agreed.
Something about him does have a little bit of that rugged indie feel that I feel like would work in AEW, not on Saturday night. Maybe actually no, he could do Saturday night if he wanted to, but he could also deal with like the fictitious, corny stuff that they do on Wednesday, like because
Hmm.
he has that in his personality. So there's a lot to play around with Jew. That's crazy. Drew. Drew, I'm so tired, y'all. I've been up since 5 in the morning. Excuse me. But Drew, I feel like is somewhat valuable to WWE. I mean, he's been part of a lot of marketing and commercials. They definitely profit off of his look and put him on the face of trucks before and stuff like that. Many
Hmm.
commercials. So I feel like they would feel like it's a loss if they lost Drew. Me personally, would I like him to resign? Possibly. If he goes elsewhere, I'm not against it. But what do you think about it?
Personally, I think that even though he has kind of hit the mountaintop in WWE, I still feel like he has more to offer. And I feel like he's kind of done the indie
I
game long
agree with
enough, in the sense of
that.
like, He's gone out, he's won world titles elsewhere. He's, done the road stuff. And to be honest, because of the way that even all these other promotions are set up, like I just feel like if Drew were to go into an AEW, he wouldn't be marketed as a big star. And if you're not going to be marketed as a big star in AEW, and you're kind of in a main event picture situation in WWE, why would you jump ship? Even if you're not necessarily competing for a world title, at least you're going to get a bigger bag. So like I feel like I would like to see Drew in WWE moving forward. I think that another thing to kind of highly consider is that because now WWE is under new management and ownership than before, that's definitely going to affect his contract situation as far as how much money he's going to be offered. So I think that's something to kind of keep a pulse on. But I would want to see Drew in WWE. I would want to see Drew in WWE for a long time. I feel like there's still other things that he can do, other matchups that he can be a part of, especially since like they kind of solidified who he is now. He's the Batman of WWE, right? They said it in a promo. Cody Rhodes is Superman. Drew is Batman. So it's like, okay, now that he's Batman, what would a Batman in WWE do? I feel like we still haven't been able to see that yet, and I think that we can have a chance to kind of see that be translate on screen a little bit more now that we have like a solidified identity. So we'll see what happens with them. But we want to know how you guys feel about this. Is Drew McIntyre staying in WWE after WrestleMania 40, or is he leaving prior to? Let us know in the comments below. So Mo's favorite uncle, Eddie Kingston, had an interview recently with Adrian Hernandez, and he was opening up and talking about mental health. And he was asked, like, why are you so adamant in speaking about mental health? He has brought it up in the Players Tribune article that came out a couple of years ago. And when he asked, he gave this quote: because I lost a lot of friends who didn't talk about it, who hid it, and a couple of friends committed suicide. A couple of friends went on a little run and got killed by others. You know what I mean? Because they didn't talk about it. And that's the end of the quote. How do you feel about Eddie Kingston kind of continuing to open up about mental health issues and challenges, especially in the professional wrestling space?
Well, another thing I actually wanted to add to your quotes is how he did mention in that same clip how um in his household his father made sure to check in for his mental health because his father unfortunately lost many people. He's lost family members and friends due to also suicide or just again unfortunate events. And what Eddie was also mentioning in that same clip was that in his household, they basically like normalized the idea of checking in with mental health. And
Mm,
that really like brought a big smile to my face because I do feel like when it comes to minority households, mental health does get neglected.
yeah,
And Eddie is much older than you and I, Jordan. So, in that era, mental health was like so taboo.
very.
They'll basically just equate you to just being weak, to being some form of a pussy, to not trying hard enough, or they would just slap you into, some box of having some form of a mental, um, you know, being a mental case
Yeah.
if you succumb to any form of mental health. So I love the idea that in his household and for his age, he could say that he had family that cared and looked out for him to make sure that he wasn't next. So
Mhm.
that brought a big smile to my face. And I like the fact that it's being normalized in pro wrestling.
Yeah.
The beautiful thing, although I do harp on how like much I think social media ruined wrestling, in a beautiful way, I feel like social media and all that had normalized the idea universally of mental health being important and included at jobs, and wrestling is a job. These
Yes.
are these are people's living. You know what I mean? And they're like underneath so much pressure. They're underneath so much pressure between making us happy because if we don't like them, they don't get paid, they don't get booked. It's very
Yeah.
simple.
Very simple.
Um it's between that, the training, the traveling, performing and hoping that neither party fucks up because you can end up like Daniel Bryan and having a fucking orbital surgery. It's so much constant pressure, and then on top of that, you got to deal with your coworkers, you got to deal with your bosses, people saying things. It's very easy to snap, and on top of that, you have a life. You have
Yeah.
life. You have family, you have friends, you have everything else. There's so much that goes on in one's life that I feel like mental health does need to have a focus, that you do need to check on your people. And like I said, it should just be a concept that is normalized, because you don't know. Someone could be smiling in your face and could be high and by. We saw what happened with Chris Benoit, high and by.
Yeah.
Travel saw that man and hung out with him and I was over at his house. Next thing you know, 48 hours later, y'all know what happened. We ain't got to talk about it. Stuff like that is why mental health should be a regular thing to talk about. You should want to
Yeah.
check in with your friends and your coworkers, and every boss out there in pro wrestling should be making sure that all of their employees are in good well and in check. So shout out to Eddie Kingston, and I just love how vocal he is. I like he makes me so proud. Oh my god, he makes me so proud to be a New Yorker, a New York Rican. I love him. Like honestly, shout out to my uncle. He did that. He did that.
I mean,
Jordan, what? Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, to kind of build off of what you were saying, like, he is a lot older than us, and that generation has a lot of stigmas um attached to mental health. Not just that you're weak, but also that you can possibly be crazy or that you could be out of your mind. But in reality, it's like we all, as human beings at this big age, have gone through a substantial amount of trauma. We have survived a pandemic. We have
Yeah.
survived terrorist attacks, a recession. Like the amount of things that human beings have had to endure within the past 25 years are not uh, aren't anything like it's unlike anything we've ever seen in human history, the things that we've had to endure and experience in the past 25 years. And that's not taking into account things that are happening within our own social circles, things that are happening within our families. And because of that, it's very, very, very important, in my opinion, to open up about mental health and to open up about mental illness, because we are all affected by it in some way, shape, or form. And it's great to see someone like Eddie Kingston, who is a roughneck, real New Yorker, talk about this and open up about this, because if he can talk about mental health, then it can create this space for other people to feel comfortable talking about mental health. And I think that that's really what it boils down to. It's about opening up and creating these discussions and creating these spaces so that other people feel comfortable in opening up and feeling the same amount of comfort and safety. I mean, you kind of hit it nail on the head, and I don't really have that much to say about it. I just think that Eddie Kingston, as well as the other men of AEW, and in other places in pro wrestling, are doing a great job in coming out and talking about mental health, um, especially amongst men of color. I think that's just super important and super vital. So shout outs to Eddie Kingston. But let us know how you feel about Eddie Kingston discussing mental illness, discussing mental health in the comments below. Woo! But we're gonna move on, because this Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we got WWE Crown Jewel coming live from Saudi Arabia. It's a stack card. There's a lot going on. We're not even going to waste any more time. We're going to get right into this card and into our predictions. Once again, if you can join us, 316 Space this Saturday. Don't be late. Anyway, we're going to start from the
Wake your
bottom of the
asses
card.
up.
For the United States Championship, we have Rey Mysterio versus Logan Paul. Who do we got?
I feel like it'd be great if you put Logan Paul over. Just saying. That's kind of like your future WWE star for the next generation. Can't lose with that one. I'm gonna go with Logan.
You know, I'm gonna go with you. I think Logan Paul is gonna take that. I think Logan Paul is definitely gonna take um that title. So I'm gonna go with Logan Paul as a lock for the US championship. Next match, we're gonna go with, for the WWE Women's Championship, Io Sky, the champion, versus Bianca Belair, the challenger. Who do we have?
Hmm. I mean, it's Bianca. I can't see Bianca coming back and losing just because, like, Bianca's like the John Cena of WWE. I feel
Mm,
like she would take that title, and then they would have Jade come out and deal with Bianca first.
mm.
Has it been confirmed if she actually is in NXT or she's dealing with NXT or is she just there just to be nosy?
As far as Jade, it looks like Jade is going to be involved in the NXT. I mean, by the way that she was kind of watching that NXT Women's Title match, one can assume that she's going to go after that championship. So I think that it's kind of confirmed that she's going to be in WWE.
NXT.
Yeah, NXT. You know what I meant.
All right. I feel like it'd be interesting if they gave it to Bianca and just to tease it one more time, it'd be kind of cool if they had Jade walk past all three women with their belts
Right.
and kind of like pick which brand she wants to deal with first. And I could already see them teasing that beyond that visual. I think they already did it, but I could see them teasing that visual with Bianca with her belt and Jade just staring dead at it, like, "Girl, I heard about you. Like, what we finna do?" So I want to go with Bianca because I feel like I'm forward planning. I don't know where they're gonna go right ahead with Io personally. Like I'm enjoying her, but I also don't perceive them getting Io a super long reign. Like I feel like
Mm.
they're gonna like cap that off at like 90 days or something. I'm gonna say Bianca.
I'm gonna go with Bianca as well. I feel like Bianca. I feel like this is the story kind of writes itself considering how she lost the title to EO
Mm,
via a Money in the Bank cash in when she was injured. So I think the story kind of writes itself. I think she's gonna win in Saudi Arabia. Um,
mm.
Next match: John Cena versus Solo Sikoa. Who do we have?
Mr. Durutu versus Solo Sokola.
Mr. Doodoo Doo is crazy. I need y'all to understand that instead of just calling him by his real wrestling name, this woman said the first three notes of his theme song and said, "This is Doodoo Doo." Mr. Doodoo Doo. Like, that's crazy. Keep going, though. Keep going. I just had to point that out to the people who are watching and or listening. She's
I
nuts.
yeah, I'm always playing, bro. Um, I feel like they're slowly building up Solo Sokoa, and John Cena is pretty much here to help, help and establish. So I'm gonna go with Solo. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Solo. No Turutu.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with you. I'm gonna go with Solo. I just want to point out also that I love this these kind of callbacks to John Cena and Umaga with the John Cena and Solo kind of, it gives me that same energy. It gives me that
Oh
kind of vibe.
yeah.
And so I think that Solo is going to win. I think that they're going to keep this persona of Solo as the guy who is always standing on business in the bloodline. Like Jimmy may be on his thing, Jay may be going over here, but Solo is always going to handle his. Even with his little
Hmm.
losses or whatever, he always gets his lick back. Like he's always on business. So I feel like they're going to keep him in that kind of realm and space, and Solo's going to get put over. Um, so that's my thing with that. The next match is for the World Women's Championship. This is going to be a five-way match. The champion Rhea Ripley versus Nia Jax versus Shayna Baszler versus Raquel Rodriguez versus Zoe Stark. Who do we have?
Just a fatal four way?
Fatal Five.
Fatal five way. Hmm. I mean, I feel like they've been trying really hard to make this
Hmm.
feud between Rhea and Nia Jax, but also make Nia Jax actually look intimidating the monster. But also, this is for the belt, right? If it's for the belt, I don't see them making Rhea give up the belt. Just
Yeah,
because
that
they have Rhea,
this is for the World Women's Title, so it is for the belt.
if it's for the belt, like if it was like regular shit, I could see them putting over Nia Jax just because they've been trying very hard to make her look threatening. But I'm
Yeah.
gonna say it's Rhea who's gonna take it simply because they are going out of their way to make Rhea feel like she's a god,
Mm-hmm.
just a god for her faction, and she got big dick energy and she could just like hold her own with these men, and nothing establishes her more than carrying that belt. Like she's elevating that woman's belt in a different way. Like she's not really defending it per se,
Mm,
but she's over there in men's business walking around with that belt. So I
yeah.
just feel like for the visual purposes, you gotta let her have the belt because she cannot talk the amount of shit she's been talking without the belt.
Right.
I just feel like it makes sense if she keeps it.
I agree. I 100% agree. I was trying to find there was a specific stat I was trying to find, but I guess I can't find it. But I agree. I feel like we talked about it in the last show as far as like Rhea's importance, right? Like we talked about Rhea's importance as far as her being the number one in the PWI 250 for the women's. And I think that that kind of sentiment kind of carries over into this. Rhea Ripley, in my opinion, is the most important women's champion in WWE right now out of all the women's champions. And I also feel like she has been positioned to be one of the most valuable women ever in WWE just because of how she's been involved with Judgment Day and how she's been kind of introduced into this leader role. And to be honest, when you think about it, everybody in the Judgment Day is kind of messed up in some way, shape, or form, and Rhea has been the one to put them back in line. So I feel like that positions Rhea to be the person who can't fall out of line,
Whoops.
right? Right. So like when Dom lost the NXT North American Championship, Rhea was like, "Hey, if you don't bring this belt back home, don't come home." And
No
then
cheap for you.
when Finn and Damian lost the tag titles, it was like, hey, y'all need to get it together and bring that gold back home. So it's like if Ray is the one keeping everyone in line, then she needs to hold her own. And I think that they're going to allow her to continue to make her hold her own. And so that's the reason why I think she's going to be winning this match. Um, but moving on, we have the World Heavyweight Championship match between Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre. Who do we have?
That'd be a really nice way to put Drew over and give
Mm,
him the type of run that he's been needing. And I
mm.
feel like Seth is such like a giving person, especially at this point in his my earbud.
Your earbud. I was about to say your earbud dropped.
Earbud done gave up on me. Back at it again. My apologies, folks. My earbud just quit on me. So as I was saying, Seth Rollins is at a point in his career where he is in this beautiful position where he could really do no wrong. He's over.
Right.
Everyone loves him no matter what. All he gets to do is come out and put on classics and bomb ass fits. Like, yo, he's just it. Like he's living his best life. He doesn't have to try hard anymore.
Right.
Everything that he touches just elevates. You know, kind of
Absolutely.
like with the Miz. Anything he deals with, it comes out better afterward. So
Right.
I feel like if they know Drew is nearing the end of his contract, and if I was WWE and I wanted to sway somebody, I'd give you a nice little title run with the newest belt that we have. Why not?
Mm.
Um, and I think what better time than now? Don't they have a show heading into? This is the show heading into in London, right? Not London. In Europe.
I don't believe so.
No, this is the Saudi
No,
show. Don't they
Bash
have
of
another show?
Berlin.
Yeah, there we go. Sorry, my
Bash of
brain's
Berlin is next
decomposing.
summer. That's next summer.
Next
That
next
is
summer.
that isn't until like August 31st, I believe, of next year.
Okay, but don't you think it'd be fire if you actually gave this man like a real run?
I think so, but at the same time, I feel like that means that he would have to hold it from now until then. And I don't see Drew holding it from now until then.
I feel
I
like they never strike while
also
iron's hot.
I also feel as if Seth is going to have something for Mania regarding this title because I feel like every time it comes to Mania, with the exception of the Money in the Bank cash in at 31, he hasn't been able to main event. And I feel like this time he's going to have a main event match at Mania. And I think it's going to involve the title. So I think on the strength of that, I think that Seth Rollins is actually going to win the match. I think that Seth is going to win. Um, I think Drew is going to still be around. I don't know what the involvement is, but I just don't think that Drew is going to win the title. I just don't see it happening. And I could be wrong. I would be pleasantly surprised. I could be wrong. But moving into the main event, we have the undisputed WWE
Mhm.
Universal Championship on the line between Roman Reigns and LA Knight. Who do you have?
This one I had a hard time with because I feel like ever since I saw Cody give Roman the eye, I feel like they're preparing for Cody to like still be like the underdog, and actually
Yeah.
be the one to take out Roman. So as much as I would like LA Knight, especially considering that they like had John Cena in his corner, which only made him look even way better than he already does. You know what I mean? And they've been like putting on a show with their fucking promos. Let me tell you. So I
Yeah.
feel like they're trying to let us down and piss us off.
Yeah.
They definitely want to. I don't think that the same way with Cody. I really don't think that they're going to give us what we want soon. And if LA Knight loses, that's only going to make him look even more like a babyface. Plus, at the same time, the crowd that they're in front of, they're going to want to make them happy by giving it to the
Mm.
big stars. So I think that they're going to give it to Roman, and LA Knight is probably going to have to go back in line and go work somewhere else. No disrespect to him. I actually like him a lot.
I actually agree. I think that Roman is going to come out on top. However, I do want to say that I feel like Roman has been using this feud to put LA Knight over
Definitely.
and letting him have his moments, letting him get his promos off, showcasing his strengths. I feel like because of the moments that Roman has given LA Knight doesn't need to win the championship in order to be a big star. And so I think that's really the most valuable thing in all this is creating a star, creating someone who can add value to anywhere they are at on the card. And LA Knight is that talent. I just feel like he has to be in stories that complement his value and add value to what he's already doing. And I feel like he's not gonna win this match, but I feel like he is going to have a series of moments that are going to make you believe this guy is going to be a future world champion. It's just not now. So
I
that
agree.
that concludes our Crown Jewel predictions. Let us know how y'all feel about the Crown Jewel in the comments below. But that concludes our show for this week. Um, Once again, thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll be back next week, and we'll be back with our 316 space this upcoming Saturday for Crown Jewel. Be sure to hop on at Culture 316 15 minutes before the show starts, and we'll be there building community with you guys. But once again, thank you guys so much, and we'll see y'all next week.